Hello, my name is Marcello Bikecki. Today I'm going to show you how to automatically generate documentation for your Vue components in a Markdown file. So the first thing that we're going to need is this Styleguidist, as well as the DocGen API and CLI. So I've already set up a pretty basic Vue application. There's nothing really special going on with it besides I have installed Vuetify and Webpack and Vue Router. So we have a Vue config.js file, and then we also have a Vuetify plugin, and then we only have our Hello World component. So before we get started, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just scrap everything that's in this Hello World component and quickly rebuild that. So put in a v container, and we will do a h1 tag, bind that to a color property that we will create later. We'll also put in a message. Then we'll put in an h2 tag, /h2. We will also bind that to the color. And we'll give that a property of subheading. Give this the name of Hello World. And then we will initialize a few props. Alright, and so now that we have those props, let's also put in a button. V-dash. And we're going to throw in a method, and this method is going to be click event, and then we're just going to have this emit a button clicked. Okay. Go ahead and save that. Oh, let's make sure that we end our vButton statement. Alright, so we've gone ahead and set up this really basic component. If we go ahead and serve this, give it a few seconds to compile. Cool, so the app has built. So we will go to localhost and check out our newly created event, and let's just quickly check and see. Okay, so this is running on port 8080. Oops. Cool. So we have just a basic element, button, nothing major. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop serving that. And now let's go ahead and install a few dependencies. So if we look at the documentation for this, we are going to see that we're going to need Webpack. I already have that installed. And then we are also going to need to install the Vue-Styleguidist. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. If you know how to, please leave it down in the comments below. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on over to the dependencies. I'm going to install a new dependency. I want to make sure to select development, and we're going to install the Vue-Guidist. Like I said, I still don't know how to say it. So what this is going to do is this is going to kind of set up a framework for us to be able to create comments, and then without the additional DocGen CLI, what this is going to do is allow you to create static websites that give you basic information about your properties. And in fact, let's go back to that real quick and let's look at documenting our components. So before we do anything, let's just go ahead and document our components. So the first thing that we want to do is inside of our script tag, we'll do a comment with 2 asterisks instead of just 1, and then we will give a quick description of how this works. So this is the default Vue component that is shown, and then we can use this at display name to specify the title of it. So we will say hello world component, and then here let's go ahead and start documenting our props. So we have the message prop, so star or /**, and we're going to say this is the h1 tag header /**, and then this is going to be, this is the secondary header, and then this is the color we want our text to show up as. And then here in the methods, instead of commenting above the method, we're going to put that inside the method. So /**, when the button is clicked, the button clicked event is emitted. Okay, so now that we have all of our documentation set up in our code, we need to move off and install a couple of dependencies. So we're going to need to install a plugin, and we're going to need to install a npm package. We're going to go to our plugins, and we're going to add a new plugin, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy the name of that from the documentation. So if we just paste that, 32,000 downloads, that's going to be the one, and go ahead and click install. Alright, so sorry about that, my screen capture software died. I didn't know about it, so I am going to walk you through what I did. So in our package JSON file, we needed to add style guide and style guide build, so that way underneath our task section we would have the option to run their web UI and build it as a static HTML file. We also had to create a file in the root directory of this program called styleguide.config.js, and then we just exported components and just saying that all of our components we would like to use. So now that all that's configured, if we go back to our Vue UI, go to style guide, hit run, we get this lovely little web server. So it tells us about our different components. If we have more than one, it would list them down along the side here. If you click here, it outlines the different properties, what it is, what it's expecting, and the default value that's provided for those, as well as any of the descriptions that we documented using the Vue-Styleguidist documenting components guide. So for more information about documenting components, check out this page. I'll have it linked down in the video description below. Everything that I just talked about, that's covered in the Getting Started section. So that's going to be configuring your style guide and adding NPM scripts for convenience. And then here you can also run that directly through the command line interface. And then if you have any questions about documenting components, check out the documenting components. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up the docgen CLI. And so what this is going to allow us to do is to create markdown files that we can easily import to GitHub or really anything that uses markdown files. So I'm going to go ahead and pull open the documentation for the docgen CLI. And here we can see that we're going to need yarn. I'm using NPM as my package manager for this project, but I do have yarn installed. So what we're going to do is we are going to add the docgen CLI with the command that they provided, and it takes about 5 minutes to install. So give it just a few minutes to install, and I will be back as soon as it's done. Alright, so after a few minutes I got docgen installed, our website looking just as beautiful as it always did. So what we are going to do now is we are going to tell docgen to run. So docgen does require a few different command line options, and so we're going to provide it with our source that we're going to be looking for and where we want to output. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this command, and then I've noticed that sometimes you'll get some weird issues. So typically I also like to tell it that we're using relative directories. So /source /doc components. In this case it actually did run fine, but I'm going to go ahead and delete it, move that to the recycle bin, and then retry. Okay, so it's generated our markdown file for us, and if I press Control-Shift-V, that's going to give us a preview of what it's going to look like. So we have a table, some default values, just a quick little description as to what everything does, all generated from our component itself. Now, the next thing is I'm pretty lazy. I don't want to have to run a command every single time before I'm about to do a commit or I'm about to push my code to our server. What I'm going to do is show you how to quickly and easily set it up where it'll automatically generate documentation every time that we compile our Vue project. And I'm going to have all of this code on GitHub as well. I'm just going to copy and paste it on over, and I will quickly go over a couple little snags that you will experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out of all of our windows, and then I'm going to come over to the GitHub repository and quickly copy on over everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our Vue config.js file, and I'm going to just quickly paste in this code. And from here, we have a command that we are executing here. If you notice that you are having problems, like it's not putting it in the right directory, or if it's not able to find any Vue files, if you are on Windows, you can just put in cd, and then in the log, it is actually going to tell you that you're in this directory, and then you can figure out how you need to modify the command in order to make it where it'll work correctly in your situation. So I'm going to go ahead and put back in that line of code, hop back on over to Vue UI. I'm going to go to the output tab and I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to hit run task. Alright, so everything loaded correctly, and it looks like it generated a new file, but I can't be 100% sure. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just quickly delete the whole docs folder, move that to the recycle bin, and then let's come back to our hello world example, and let's make another change. So let's go into our documenting components, and let's see if there's something that we want to play around with. Okay, so we will switch this around and say that this is our success event. So small change, and then the other thing that I'm going to do is I am going to quickly put in another V button, And I'm going to bind its color to color 2 and kill that off. I am also a button. It's very excited to be a button in this day and age. And so we'll create a new prop called color 2. Set that to be a default of primary, and then we will add in a little bit more documentation on this. So this is the color of the second button, and it is really great. So we'll go ahead and save that. So if we come back over here and we hit stop and then run task again, we can see that we have our docs have been regenerated. And so I'm going to go ahead and let this finish loading. And our app has successfully been rebuilt again. So if I open that, look, we have our second button. And then if we come over to our docs and open up our Hello World example, once again, Control-Shift-V, and we can now see that we have our second color added in. And then we also have an event that's a success type instead of just listing out the events. So hopefully this makes your life a little bit easier, especially if you're working on a large project with this team, like I frequently do. And so now you don't have to worry about going in and documenting all of your components that you've built. You can just document them directly through your code, and everybody can see exactly what your plugins are through GitHub or however you share your files. And of course, if you prefer the website kind of documentation that Styleguidist, I don't know what to call it, but that this offers, take advantage of it. It's really easy to deploy, especially if you want it to automatically sync with, say, GitHub pages or Azure or AWS S3 buckets or anything like that. It's really easy to deploy. So that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button. Like, comment down below if you have any questions or any ideas for future videos. So if you guys have anything that you want to see, leave a comment down below. I'll look into it, probably make a video on it. I also started a Patreon. Links down in the description below. I'm a college student, so kind of every penny helps, especially to pursue my passion of programming and teaching. So yeah, that's it for the moment. Thank you for watching.